All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new review and recap of The Acolyte Season 4, which is titled Day. And I'm pretty sure the next episode is going to be listed as Night. That's just my prediction, because everything about this show reeks cheap. And I mean cheap to the max. This looked like an old Star Trek episode. And at one point they get all these Jedi to go to Kofar to find the Wookiee Jedi. And I was thinking, oh, these are all unknown Jedi. They're all going to get killed. That was just my prediction. But this episode actually leaves off on a cliffhanger, so we don't know what's going to happen until the next episode. Now, first off, let's talk about the whole pronoun debacle that's out there. It was so misplaced in this episode. There's a creature that they show that has this sniffing job to do for the Jedi, and he's on board, and I get the girls mixed up. I believe it's Osha. Osha looks over and says he or they, and I thought she was having a stroke because I was like, does she see two of them? No, it was a whole pronoun thing. And it's like, it was so out of place. It didn't need to be in there. It was nonsensical. It's like they just had to throw it in there to throw it in there. And again, this is what Disney does. They're just pushing these agendas, and it's not even in a natural way, because that was as unnatural as you get, okay? But this episode was very basic. We've got May with the person who gave her the poison in a previous episode, going off to kill the Wookiee Jedi, and the whole time she's worried about having to kill somebody without using a weapon, and she's like, how do I do this? And then it was crazy because all of a sudden, just out of the blue, in the middle of the episode, she's like, hey, I'm going to turn myself in. I want to connect with my sister. I'm going to go tell the Jedi everything that's going on. And you're like, what? Like, there was no build-up to this. There was nothing in the story indicating she was going to do this. She's killed 2 Jedi Masters already. You think she's just going to go over there and they're going to accept her and everything's going to be kumbaya? Like, no. You've killed some Jedi. Like, you can't just go turn yourself in and everything's going to be good. And the Jedi are even acting like everything will be good. We'll bring her over to the light side. There was nothing in her character indicating, especially with as hard as she went after those first 2 Jedi, that she was going to all of a sudden change camps. Like, what the heck? And we still don't know who her boss is, let's put it that way, who this dark, this supposedly Sith, or the beginning of the Sith, I don't know, this Jedi or old witch is. And in fact, the only cool shot in this is when they're trying to defend themselves, and all of a sudden in the background it's blurry, but you can see whoever this character is, kind of float down from the sky. And they're coming from a completely different direction from where they should have come from, which leads you to believe maybe they can transport themselves to different areas, kind of like the Dathomir witches. Who knows? We don't know. But the costume on this character, I got to say, is freaking ridiculous. The helmet is oversized. It kind of reminds me of Spaceballs. Like, it was ridiculous. It just looks ridiculous. Everything about this show looks cheap. Everything from the costumes. And so we don't know who this character is. That's when all the Jedi light their lightsabers and they get pushed back. So we don't know who this Dark Master is yet. We don't know if this person is a Sith, if they're an ex-Jedi. We don't know anything yet. They're not revealing that. We don't know what's going on. But even in that scene, Osha is right there and should have been killed. It would have been more impactful if this Jedi had killed her. But took a good look at her, which leads me to believe maybe she is one of the 2 mothers from what happened 16 years prior. I don't know where this is going. It's not interesting. Like, everything that happened in this episode could have taken 15 minutes. It didn't have to take a whole entire episode. They could have moved the story along, and everything looks cheap. Now let's talk about the other elephant in the room, which was ridiculous. Ki-Adi-Mundi was in this episode. He wasn't even supposed to be alive at this time. And it's crazy now that Star Wars, if you go to the Star Wars wiki, they actually have a tab for legends and also for canon. And now under canon, they've changed his age. Like, he's around 40 years prior to when he was supposed to be around. The other thing that I found ridiculous is the fact that we haven't even seen the High Council for the Jedi. In fact, I'm wondering why we haven't seen Yoda yet. Yoda should be around, but they specifically say in this episode, let's not bother the High Council. Let's take care of this ourselves. And it's a cheap way to say we don't want to show Yoda in the episode. Heaven forbid should we make this feel like Star Wars and actually put the characters that are supposed to be that old in it. Let's actually take characters that were never supposed to be that old and kind of throw them in here. It shows a complete disregard for the lore of Star Wars. Like this show is a complete travesty all the way around if you're a Star Wars fan. It is betraying everything from the way they portray the Force to to how the characters that should and shouldn't be in there. Like they're totally mixing this up, and it's just garbage. This feels like true fan fiction. Like somebody just came up with this who shouldn't be writing shows and shouldn't be directing shows. This is like beyond awful, guys. There's nothing good to say about this show. I'm going to still continue to watch this week to week, but this is getting ridiculous. I saw somebody mention earlier on one of the comments on Twitter that in the end we're going to find out Smee was one of the old witches. And if they go that route, they're going to piss off a lot of people. Like there's this whole thing, they're totally ruining the lore of Star Wars at this stage. And I myself and a lot of fans, we're never going to consider this canon. We're cutting ourselves off specifically because this was the last straw. All right, guys, so what did you think? Have you seen the episode? What did you think? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. We will see you on the next update.